specifically SilverName not doing the best here in Division A, but still going with a pretty cool lineup of maybe best of both worlds, sort of going Hunter and Priest with the Warrior and Demon Hunter, of course.
Yeah, this is something that we've seen a lot of the Priest players do, is also bring Highlander Hunter so that they are protected essentially against their opponent's Priests coming out the other way, as well as Highlander Hunter having another good spread of matchups across the board. So I think this is a pretty common strategy that you will see. And I was about to make the point that Jarla might just have one of those lineups that is interested in leaving up the Warrior, and it does seem to be the case here, as Warrior is there available for SilverName. And now Galakron Warlock becomes the talking point again, because Jarla, I think it's fairly safe to call this like Jarla's pet deck at this point. He's brought it multiple times in metagames where no one else is really running with it, and it's had a pretty middling performance, I would say. It hasn't been a standout performer for him, but he does keep going back to the well with it. And again here, he's now creating a very interesting spot where, with a non-Priest lineup, he feels like he can leave up Warrior, which is not really something we were expecting to see coming into this week.
Yeah, really strange, and personally not a huge fan of leaving up Warrior regardless, because I think unlike Demon Hunter, it's being left up and winning a ton of games, whereas Demon Hunter, we saw from the stats early today, not doing quite the same thing Warrior's doing right now. I am interested as well, not only in the fact that Jarla has Warlock and no Priest, but also, as you mentioned, it's Galakron Warlock, which is Jarla's seemingly pet archetype, versus the Quest Warlock that I think the more I see it, the more I play it, and the more I talk to specifically you, Subtle, I'm getting more and more convinced that the deck is actually just a very solid deck. It's maybe not a flash in the pan, which I maybe originally thought it was. When I first saw it being played around, I thought, oh, people just doing this because Warlock got nerfed and it's a different Warlock deck. But yeah, the more I play it, the more I think it might have legs. And I wonder if Jarla's ever going to consider moving towards that direction, or if he's just so convinced that it's Galakron specifically that needs to be played in his lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I am also becoming quite a big fan of the deck. I was playing it this morning just before the broadcast on ladder, just climbing Americas for the sake of it. I was just winning every single game, and I'm pretty sure I'm not playing well. Like, I'm still very much in the intermediary stage of just putting
things... Is that the deck, or is that the server, though? You've got to think about that, right?
Wait, what? Hang on, isn't that a compliment? You're saying I'm just winning because I'm me? Is that what you just said?
No, you're winning because you're playing on Americas.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am just playing really, really badly. But you are right. Of course, all my opponents are also playing really badly because I'm on the Americas server, so that does make sense. But yeah, I'm certainly still throwing away percentage here and there as I'm learning like certain play patterns and interactions with the deck. Because it's incredibly complex to squeeze everything out of, but it just feels so powerful. You just feel like you have answers to everything. And even when your deck completely fails you and you don't get any of the broken stuff for zero, you can still find win conditions. I think it's a very, very promising deck moving forward. And it makes me yet again surprised to see Galakron Warlock coming out from not only Jarla, but also Hunter Ace later on today is also going to be running the Galakron Warlock.
Yeah, and they are teammates as well, and we'll see how this pans out overall. But I do agree in general with the Mage, but I will say Jarla does feel, for me, much more of a wild card than maybe I pinned him for, just regarding his submission, right? Because this isn't the first time, again, he's submitted Warlock kind of on his own to a certain extent. But also, it's Galakron Warlock, Highland Hunter, which I'm completely down with, but then the Highlander Mage as well, which I'm not even sure where Highlander Mage fits for me in general in lineups right now, especially when he's not bringing some other things. But let's get into it. Jarla currently sitting at a 3-1 record in Division A, looking fantastic. SilverName, on the other hand, on a 1-3 record, so in great need of a win here against his opponent. Jarla, it's going to be the Hunter versus the Wall.
Pretty sketchy looking opener, I would say, from SilverName's side. None of that nice early pressure that he'd be looking for in the matchup. It is very hard to consolidate boards against any kind of control Warlock, be it Galakron or Quest, as Hunter, because one particular card, Dark Skies, just seems to end your entire deck. It's so hard for you to generate enough health on board in the early game that you don't just get blown out by like tap into Dark Skies or whatever in the early game.
Job's done. The one good thing, though, in this matchup for the Hunter, I would say, is that you don't really get destroyed by Plague of Flames as much as you do in a lot of the matchups.
Job's done.
For the Warlock, it's not as punishing against Hunter because you don't normally go super wide. You don't even normally commit into anything overly large because some of your biggest minions are ones that have effective turn to play them like Brad. So you can just start chipping away. I think what SilverName just needs to do is hope the Jarla have all the early invoke cards to really put some pressure on it and contest the board. We're going into your favorite card, Subtle, the Devoted Mania.
Yeah, it's much more playable in this deck. I think,
Yeah.
I've made this point before, but in the classes where your Invoke actually makes board presence, so Shaman, Warlock, I think it's a much more playable card because you don't just, it's not just such a low tempo play that it feels completely miserable.
I do like this play though, the Moag. Jarla has so much better options next turn to use his coin, whether that's the Shield of Galakrond or the Netherwing, depending on board state. I do like this. Just sacrifice the 2/4 a little bit, as it probably does have to be traded into from SilverName, because any damage he does face, if he's just going to face a Nether Breath on the backswing from Jarla, then it just gets healed up anyway, so you might feel forced actually to kill this Moag.
Yeah, there's a question as to whether he would have coin breathed there if he had it. I think the answer is no, but you have to ask yourself that question. I do love this Corrosive Breath interaction though. When you're playing Hunter, you just get to immediately snipe it down. Unfortunately for the Hunter player, the damage does not then also double onto the face.
It's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah. Where small differences in card wording could make all the difference. If it read deal 3 damage to a minion if you're holding a dragon, your damage also hits the enemy hero, then you might expect it to do 6 to face if you get it doubled off a Moag Artificer, but it doesn't say that.
Interesting here for SilverName that he went for the Ooze instead of the Fairy Dragon. Fairy Dragon just being untargetable. He already has a dragon in hand, so he has an activator for, well, some of his other cards. And also this Ooze, I think it's fair to say you're expecting the average game to have Galakrond come out with weapon. We could get some value if he held this Ooze instead, but he's glad to play it.
Yeah, I think Galakrond Warlock is the easiest deck in the game to fully invoke your Galakrond with. SilverName might be thinking that he's going to make a Faceless Corruptor play this turn if his small minion lives, so therefore Acidic Swamp Ooze was the worst of the 2 minions. He'd rather have that being transformed than the Fairy Dragon instead.
I wonder.
For the first time today, I think we're seeing the true impact of the Scavenger's nerf. The +2/+2 instead of +3/+3 means that this turn is way more awkward than it would be pre-nerf. It's actually a very, very horrible turn.
Yeah, Diving Griffin seems like the least miserable of the plays available.
It's just he has to sack so much into just the Shield of Galakrond.
Yeah.
And also the Diving Griffin, I don't think will throw him anything. Because he's not shuffling Zixor in.
Right.
So that's just, again, with Zixor already on board, it's just a shame that he can't draw a card from it. But he also couldn't have even killed Zixor off that turn. Just to, just to be extreme and say, okay, I'll sacrifice my Zixor in a weird fashion, but draw the Prime from the Griffin. So that was just unfortunate in every way, shape, and form there for SilverName. All the way back just to that Scavenger's nerf.
Yeah, good news for SilverName is his hand is doing just fine on value right now. He should have enough plays to get himself through to Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, keep the pressure going. So the loss of the Zixor Prime isn't quite as big as you might have with other hands where you're lower on value.
I actually I was going to bring this up. I did wonder if this was just Plague and just say, you know what? Not the craziest Plague, but as I mentioned, you're often not facing down big wide boards against Hunter. You're facing down 1 to 2 awkward minions. So why not just use the Plague to gain the board? I like this from Jarla.
Sure.
And another pretty horrible.
Might just have to play Varanus here just as a 7/6.
It's so good versus Warlock, though, is the frustration. Especially with Unleash already in his hand.
It is, but every other turn is a little bit too close to passing for my liking.
Okay, here's my question. Is just Faceless that much worse? How much worse?
Yes. So everything trades down, right? So it's an empty board, complete full turn of development from Jarla's side.
Quickly.
I think if it was a touch later in the game, it would be worth it. Even if for some reason he ends up just doing Faces, because if you can get to the Unleashed Varanus, it doesn't matter that much that they rebuild the board for free, because then you just slice it all down. But I think because we are just exactly on turn 6 going to 7, the SilverName's not got the time to wait till turn 9, right? That's 3 whole turns away.
Right.
And now,
so I think
Field Worship
Jarla would have... Yeah, exactly. I think Jarla would have very much wanted to draw cards this turn, but unless he wants to bet on getting the answer to the 7/6, that's a lot more difficult to do now because SilverName proposed a threat. Because if Jarla plays Veiled Worshipper here and whiffs on an answer for the 7/6, he's dead to Bran.
And those answers would be another Plague. The Rain of Fire wouldn't be enough unless he drew Moag as well. The Nether Breaths, Dark Skies. Yeah, Dark Skies. No, Dark Skies wouldn't necessarily do it. Yeah.
Almost out of time.
Also, he runs a Frozen Shadow Weaver in this list. So even that freezing it out would have been nice.
But he doesn't have the mana for a lot of that stuff. He only has 2 mana remaining afterwards, so it's pretty much Nether Breath or bust off this draw. And Jarla got bust, so he is now dead to Dino Tamer Bran. He's going to get the fortunate news that it's nowhere to be found. The Unleash. Okay, trades.
Okay, he's trading. I was going to say. Oh, there we go.
Off the top, like an absolute lord.
A little bit scared then that Jarla's gone a little bit too wide to open up some Unleash. There was the trade there from Jarla, but he did decide to take the risk with the Field Worshipper. And as you mentioned, I was reeling off just literal answers that were in the deck. Never mind, not even playable ones, right? And there weren't even that many just answers. So it was, I'm not sure exactly how likely that was there for Jarla, but he didn't get it. It did open up the potential for the Bran, and SilverName just nailed it there. So going to just get a pretty, not out of nowhere win, but a pretty sudden win with that Hunter against the Warlock. And so far, Galacron fallen at the first hurdle this weekend.
Yeah, but yeah, I do like the play of Varanus. You know, I called it out immediately. I think it was probably the line just for SilverName to continue to propose threats, because I think, you know, giving the free turn back to Jarla there, where he could have just played Veiled Worshipper, just, you know, clear board, happy, just play it and just move on with your life. It at least made his opponent's turn awkward, which is Hearthstone 102, if we're going back into that discussion from yesterday, is after you've got to the point of figuring out what good plays are for you, think about what plays make your opponents feel miserable. And outside of just every possible priest turn, that quite often means in putting them in effective places where their good cards aren't as effective as they could be, because players want to play their good cards. Veiled Worshipper is an incredibly good card there. So by creating the awkward position where you then sometimes threaten lethal on the follow-up, I think was very nicely done from SilverName.
Yeah, sometimes you definitely do have to put on the pressure, especially when you know your opponent has access to healing. Sometimes they just don't have it, which is what we saw there, and then you win. So paid off a lot there for SilverName. It was just game number 1, though. We've got plenty more games coming up for you today and the rest of the weekend, of course. But for now, we're going to go to a quick break while we get ready for game number 2 between Jarla and SilverName.
Meet Clark Cluckerberg. 998. 999. 1,000. Why did she leave me? We were so good together. I don't think that translates well in Mandarin. I want to be a real chicken. Why does everyone get to be a real chicken but me? No, you. Tell me the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Why so aggressive?
Okay, you guys are pretty good. I guess we can just turn this into a regular interview since everyone clearly here is not going to laugh. So I had this idea for a deck. In week 1 of Grandmasters,
We are back and ready to continue our series between SilverName and Jarla, and it got off to a pretty explosive start there as SilverName took a win just with the help of a good friend Bran off the top there just to finish that up. But he did put himself in that aggressive position to do so. So pretty exciting stuff there, but we've still got plenty more games to play out as we see SilverName still has his Priest and Warrior to play against Jarla's, I will say questionable lineup, and I don't even mean that in a negative way. I just mean Jarla's bringing a weird lineup, and I'm excited to see if it pays off for him.
Yeah, I actually had Lorinda dig through the stats on just Jarla playing Galakron Warlock in particular. And if I'm interpreting what he spat out correctly, I believe Jarla is now 8-10 overall. That's including pre-nerf games, like before Sacrificial Pact was nerfed
right.
with Galakron Warlock as well. So, it's not a great win rate with the deck overall, but I am really curious about it because there was a week where Galakron Warlock got submitted when I first brought it up as an issue for, potentially an issue for Jarla. It's he really seems to favor this deck. That week, I think Jarla submitted it, Hunter Ace submitted it, and Just Saiyan submitted it, who are 3 of the smartest Hearthstone players in the freaking world. And here's me sat there this doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm so curious that it keeps coming back out for these players time after time.
And there is just a point where, honestly, yes, they are amazing players, don't get me wrong, they're way better than me and way smarter than me, but sometimes smart people get things wrong, right? And I think we even had that from Huntrace the other week where he just said oh yeah, I kind of just didn't get it right and just messed up either a ban or a bring or whatever, and he didn't end up doing it. And he didn't respect Zoo or respected Zoo too much, and so on. So sometimes people get it wrong. Let's see if that's going to be one of those weekends here as we go into game number 2. SilverName on the bottom with this Warrior and Jarla the top back Warlock again. And this, I'll confess, Sottle, is not a matchup I've really played out too much, even though I have probably, well over at least 100 games of Warrior right now, maybe 200.
Yeah, same. Just not a very common deck on ladder. When you queued into Warlocks prior to the most recent patch, it was Zoo that you were playing against the majority of the time. Now it seems to be Quest Warlock that you're playing against the majority of the time. So it's not a matchup that I really have a ton of reps in either.
Yeah, it is one where I think on paper it could be quite good. There is the heal factor, which is nice, especially with the Grommets now being the common player. And also Plague of Flames just doesn't care about cards like Rampage or Blood Boil Brute or Warmoles.
Or
they just
Warmole
die.
Challenger.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? He just dies. Which
Yeah.
again, it's very similar to it being good against a deck like Druid or a deck like Mage, where it doesn't matter how big the things that make, the Plague just kills them as long as they can even up the board, which they can a lot of the time. So I think on paper this could be a decent matchup for Jarla, or as decent as a matchup gets versus Warrior. But we'll see what it happens in practice. Right now, it's at the first test.
Yeah, I will say it seems like the upside of the Warmole Challenger, though, even though it's not going to stick to the board forever and be immortal if Jarla wants to kill it now that he's drawn Plague of Flames, the stat line just in general is just so effective at picking apart all of these early invokes, right, from Jarla, because that is one of the problems you do sometimes come up against with Galakron Warlock. It's just the 1/1s just get too efficient against you if your deck isn't really built well to deal with them. Just having a 1/10 in play early is going to solve a lot of those problems.
Yeah, and in case you're wondering, oh, well, wait. Warrior specializes in doing AoE 1 damage. What are you on about? How are these imps good? You don't want to be using Risky Skipper against imps that just get generated now and again, right? They aren't meant for... They're not, like, vital to Jarla's game-winning plan. So these imps aren't that often going to be cleared by Risky Skipper on purpose. It'll more just be a side benefit. So, yeah, you're completely right there. Outside of that, these imps could start just picking away SilverName's board.
SilverName does have a Blood Boil Brute here if he wants it, but it would leave 2 minions versus 2 minions in play at the end of it, which seems kind of upsetting for Plague of Flames purposes, so you can probably rule that one out.
I wonder if he ever actually makes a big Warmole to just make Plague of Flames. SilverName is going for it. Because the problem is, or the upside is, yes, he's used 2 cards, but Rampage is a card that, although powerful, you definitely don't need to win games with. And he either keeps this 6/12 and gets to swing again next turn, which is pretty good, or a lot of outcomes with 12 health mean that Jarla uses a Plague if he has one. If that's the case, well, great, you plagued 1 minion. Seems like at least a half victory for SilverName.
Right.
So many possibilities.
You could use now this Sacrificial Pact to reduce the loss of Plague if he feels the need to play it, so he gets to heal and Plague and still be fine.
Right.
I wonder.
Does just push him off his curve, though. Again, it's just a very good disruption play from SilverName, very similar to what we saw last game with the Varanus. Just making your opponent's life awkward, make them do things that they don't want to do. SilverName gets the nod. He knows, as soon as he sees the Sacrificial Pact, he knows what's up.
Can follow with the Veiled Worshipper as well, and although not active, I think just having something on the board versus Warrior is very, very good. I like this.
Yep, I'm into it.
These are the moments here for Jarla. If Jarla starts making SilverName just use a Korkron to kill this Worshipper, then SilverName's probably gonna, Jarla's probably gonna feel pretty happy about that.
What now?
I wonder, what do you think, Sol? Do you think Jarla's planning on just dropping Kronk next turn to draw the Galakron?
Certainly if SilverName shows weakness here, which he's likely to do.
Because in this matchup, a 6/6 is hard for the Warrior to actually kill, right?
Yep,
So even
for
just
sure.
Kronk as a minion is a problem. Never mind the fact that it does draw him that Galakron.
You are too late.
Yeah, I love it. The only real alternative, I think, is just dropping a Crazed Netherwing for tempo instead, and that's just way too valuable a card in the matchup when you look at the state of a post-Risky Skipper board, for example. Oof. Hard casting a Parachute Brigand.
Can't even use this turn to just get a mediocre Battle Rage off, can he?
No.
Too rough. Ooh, this is shaping up very well for Jarla. He has the Invoke now with a life tap if he wants. Jarla can just focus on clearing this board up if he wants to just take down the 2/2. Reduce the options or chances for SilverName to go off and get an extra draw with the Risky Skipper next turn. From Jarla's point of view, of course, I can see the risky skipper in there. Something. So.
And that's Invoke 2 and Invoke 3 now in hand with the second... forgotten the name. Shield of Galakron being drawn.
Yep. I really like this trade, you know. That's tough for me to say, because I like going face with big minions. But this trade, I think, ticks the boxes, right?
Yeah, I really like it. So going face there, you'd damage SilverName. When SilverName's shown 0 signs of having a weapon up to this point. Of course, he draws the Corsair Cache right on time. But he's shown 0 signs of having a weapon up until this point, so you don't really want to be doing the work for him in terms of getting himself damaged. And then you also leave 2 extra minions in play that can be there for a risky skipper, into Blood Boil Brute, into Battle Rage, and suddenly just game on. Suddenly the worst hand that SilverName's had up until this point is suddenly just full of options because you've left some minions up.
Now the other Shield of Galakron, there's a Mortal Coil to continue the cycle. You can either life tap or just Nether Breath and then go with the Krunks to face.
Yeah, I think he wants to be playing cards here because he has Veiled Worshipper number 2 in hand, ready to draw. So life tap is a little bit diminished right now.
I think this is fine, right? He gets the heal from Nether Breath, right?
Yep.
He's Shield of Galakron, so he gets the Invoke and more Imps. And he gets to hit face for what? 7? Seems good.
I will act as your scale.
Jarla just taking his time. I do think this turn is too good to pass up. Just swing there, and although we talked about not damaging SilverName because of Battle Rage, there is a limit to that rule. You don't just hard ignore the face all game to avoid that. And also just good timing there for Jarla, because we knew, of course, there was a weapon SilverName available, so he could have damaged himself anyway.
Yeah, it's also very different that turn than it was last turn. Like, last turn, Jarla would have damaged face and left 2 minions in play with more than 1 health, which means you're giving up a potential 4 to 5 card Battle Rage to your opponent, plus a Blood Boil Brute for 0 a lot of the time as well, or close to. With no minions in play, sure, it's very, very different, because then even if they are getting a Battle Rage, it's likely to be a small one because you haven't seen Ankar yet, so there's unlikely to be a bunch of cheap pirates in the hand that can activate that Battle Rage. So yeah, it's very much chalk and cheese from the last turn in terms of attacking face there. Frozen Shadow Weaver right on cue.
Is Galakron active? And by active, I mean 4.
3.
Oh, I counted 4. It's 3. What about Alex Straza?
Okay.
I mean, you've got Nether Breath next turn and a Nether Wing.
So many.
And what does SilverName do to an 8/8?
Yeah, sign me up. I'll be perfectly honest. I just wasn't even particularly looking at the Alex Straza in hand.
Oh,
but
I
that does
always
make a lot of
look
sense.
Can you just Alex them in the face and swing?
Yeah.
I am really surprised Jarla didn't go for that. Seems so good. I mean, this still does a lot of damage to SilverName, don't get me wrong, but I just wonder really if Jarla even needs to draw into the Invoke to get the Galakron active with this hand.
Mm-hmm. And there it is, the lonely Battle Rage for 1.
Just a concede there from SilverName. He didn't really get to play that game, but Jarla's not only plays, but also deck just really helped him out with that. The Plague of Flames, as we mentioned, just putting a stop to the Warlock Challenger, and then SilverName could just never get going. So even though Jarla didn't go for the big Alex Straza play, he did put himself just in a fantastic spot, do not get me wrong. So chalk one up for the Galakron Warlock there, Sottle.
Sorry, I've just noticed my lower third. The The 5-4 after the clear, though, is actually super important for Jarla. You know, you're talking about how having a minion in play is really nice against Warrior, which is absolutely true. There are sometimes downsides to that you get another minion in play that gets injured, and then their Blood Boil Brute gets cheaper, and yada, yada, yada. But in that case, it completely shut down SilverName's opportunities to redevelop, because I think he top-decked second Warmaw Challenger that turn. So if Jarla hadn't have developed a minion, he could have just played another 110 uncontested on the board, and then Jarla's essentially just right back in that same position while already being down 1 Plague of Flames. So it was really night and day difference between playing the minion there and not playing the minion. I think Jarla, quite happily recognizing that he did not need full card draw value, and that having a 5-4 in play was just so much more important. It was a heads-up piece of recognition, and I think it potentially won in that game.
Yeah, and it's one of the benefits. We talked earlier about, is this Jarla's kind of pet deck? Is he maybe too attached to this deck? Well, one thing you do get as a benefit to having a deck you maybe like a little bit too much is you know it in and out. So although it wasn't, the highest level play I've ever seen, knowing that he could just drop the Veiled Worshipper, it's not drawing any cards, it's just a solid play, and he could sacrifice its ability or whatever, it's just something you would know a lot if you've just played the deck a lot. So it is some payoffs, even if you might not be bringing the most optimal deck in the world. If you just know it in and out, you are going to get some level of edge from that. But let's move swiftly on into game number 3. It's going to be the Highlander Hunter versus the Warrior now for SilverName, and this hurts me inside if I'm known to play in this match.
Someone's got to lead the charge.
I guess some of the better opening cards, honestly. The Diving Griffin, just to shut down any of the early plays from SilverName, and the Rotnest Drake, if he has a dragon to proc it with, are actually pretty powerful, mainly just because they're the big sort of clunky, beefy minions you want to play against Warrior, and not some of the more, like the heavier selection of 1-drops and 2-drops you want sometimes.
Oof. We're used to the Hunter player being the player with the infinite weapon. We're used to the Scam Hammer coming down in some of these matchups. But with 2 pirates already drawn, Sky Raider that's in play, Risky Skipper in hand, I think this Ankar now guarantees the Captain Greenskin draw from one of its charges, meaning that SilverName could potentially just have Ankar in play for the entire game at this point. Such a big difference drawing Corsair Cash with this game. It's the other thing that SilverName was just really missing. He just didn't really have proactive stuff to do in the previous game because Corsair Cash came so late, whereas if he'd got it earlier, he would have had the chance to at least, with Livewire Lance, get some lackeys rolling that can give him something to do to keep up some pressure. Or, of course, if he hit the Ankar, he was just sitting on that Battle Rage the entire time with no way to get value out of it.
What's interesting there for Jarla, I do wonder whether he should have gone coin into the Desert Spear to kill off the 1-2, but also just set up for a bit of support for the Animal Companion as well. The only downside, really, is that Jarla's hand does go a little bit late. He has multiple options for coin on 4 into a strong 5-drop plays as well. So, too upset with him holding it and just popping the Hero Power there.
Yeah, this gives him Desert Spear into Faceless Corruptor curve, which is insane. So I like him holding onto it. So this one is now either Sky Raider or Greenskin, I believe. There's the Greenskin. So that's his next play pretty much locked up.
Love the feel of wind in me sails. Wait for me!
He could choose to wait, because obviously there is only 1 more pirate left in his deck, so he doesn't get full value out of both of the Ankar swings in terms of card draw. But waiting until you draw a Livewire Lance that might never come at this point does seem a little bit ambitious.
Yeah, just have a true Silver Champion, right? And a minion, just utilize the fact you're hitting them for 2 more times. It's a big deal here. Funnily enough, if Jarla had access to a dragon, he would have a really good answer to Greenskin. It is just one of those, one turn plays that does end up kind of sitting on the board on its own. Rotnest to be a really quick, easy answer there.
Jarla now with the Zephrys draw, though. Just have some thinking to do. The Faceless Corruptor play is obviously very swingy.
Yeah, I think the Faceless Corruptor play is really powerful here. Is he going to go for it?
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Like, he has to consider Acidic Swampoos here, right? Because he knows that SilverName is playing Greenskin. So he knows that this is potentially another huge weapon, and it might be, you know, he might not be in a comfortable position where he can just play Zephrys into Ooze on the following turn, meaning if he doesn't do it here, then he's in a spot where he just gets multiple charges out of that weapon that he can just destroy right now. It just shuts down SilverName's turn 5 really effectively, right?
Yeah, I wondered how just 2 4/3s would have shut his turn down as well, right?
Yes. Problem then is that you know your opponent has all of his risky skipper stuff, so he can risky skipper away your board. And then that's a board that you then can't just go Zephrys into Ooze against because you have to deal with the board that your opponent made. So then the turn after that, SilverName still gets to drop his green skin afterwards.
The old tempo green skin. Oof. That's not the turn SilverName wanted at all. No. Because you do not want to... I said, you know, the matchup's hard for Hunter, but if Hunter can just get on top of it and start piling on some pressure, they do just win sometimes. You know, the amount of damage Hunter can kick out is never to be underestimated. Now...
Yeah.
Allah's got some options.
He does. And now also by preserving the coin and finding himself a good play on turn 4 without using the coin, he also now just has like Faceless Corruptor into Dynotoma Brand Curve. Using the coin on 6 instead.
Part of me doesn't even mind it this turn. I'm wondering how effective actually Griffin Coin Animal Companion is.
Vengeance is near.
Because you can still use the following turn to equip the weapon. It's not like Dynotama Brand like sets up a lethal, because SilverName's on 28 right now.
It can't be better than coining an 8/8 charge, can it?
I have no time for games.
If it's coining 8/8 charge next turn, what if it just makes no Mega Board now? I know there's the risky skippers, but I think now with that play from SilverName, he's shown that SilverName probably doesn't have Bomb Wranglers, have anything crazy to do with risky skippers. He might have even just done it, you know, just playing out the green skin.
I just think this ticks all the boxes. You have 2 4 health minions in play that's not vulnerable to Risky Skipper. It needs to be Risky Skipper plus bombs to be able to clear. And you still have the coin for just the giant minion that Warrior doesn't deal with because it has 8 health.
That's true.
It just seems like the line.
What now?
SilverName does not play Deathwing either in his list.
Nope.
He's playing the 1 injured Tolve and then 1 green skin and 1 Grom. When normally I think the Tolve is often a Deathwing in that scenario.
Yes, correct. That's the meaty list, I guess we'll call it.
A good amount of card draws though, and he still has Risky Skipper number 2 and an Armor Smith to get things going. So SilverName, although looking behind, is by no means out of the game.
Yeah, big dino go raw though, Raven.
I mean, argue with that, can I? Although I'd want to.
Vengeance.
It does feel a little bit awkward with leaving bombs around, doesn't it?
It does. That's probably the one thing that will put you off, is that how much damage can these bombs end up doing.
Also, just like the weird turn of, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's correct to kill the Risky Skipper, obviously. But just having these, like, big minions you set up go into a 1-3 and maybe a 2-2 just feels a little bit bad too. Oh, I respect that play, though. Okay, Jarla. Saved. Ignore the Bomb Wrangler, it's awkward. Just go face.
I'm not actually sure. In terms of, like, hand tracking from Jarla, SilverName has 1 Risky Skipper that I think he drew naturally and 1 that he drew off the Ankar. So based on which one he's played and which one he's held onto, Jarla might have the read that there's either 1 or 2 pirates left in the deck, based on how many the Ankar has drawn that he knows about, which actually can be an important kicker in this position. I think you just saw Jarla's reaction there to the second skipper coming down.
Now look how crazy this is. This is just going to be bombs ahoy. SilverName wants it to be. Or we can draw a million cards. If he draws, he can't activate a second wave of bombs, and I think that is going to be important.
Agreed.
Just Armor Smith. Take it. Or it can be trade Armorsmith.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what the highest percentage trade here is. This one I can get down with. Obviously, you're clearing one minion off the board that can't get hit by these bombs. So that has upside in terms of the bombs hitting the targets that you want. But nope, nope. Hitting dinosaurs is illegal, apparently.
So nothing looks like it adds up, even if the Animal Companion goes well here for Jarla. He doesn't quite have access to the mana.
Yeah, Leok Unleash is, what, 16?
Can't fit in a hero power. I think now might be as good a time as any to get that Stormhammer equipped. It also scavenges into the Zixor. But then that's mana that he doesn't really need. He could actually use Griffin and Zixor instead. Again, if he wants the multi-trades, obviously.
I have no time for games.
Victory is in my grasp.
It's a point here because now both players are at that weird moment where either of them could lose next turn, right? Because both decks have access to a large amount of burst in various different ways, so it's not unlikely that they die, but it looks like Jarla's just going to say, no, if he has it, he has it. Most importantly, I'm just going to continue to hit face with this giant axe.
One more Challenger is potentially huge. That's an extra Battle Rage proc here if he wants it.
He could go for lethal, though, with the bomb trade.
Wait, what do you want to do? Oh, if it hits face for 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, two, right?
2?
Double call.
Oh, sure, yeah, 2. I'm not counting the Bomb Wrangler attack for some reason.
Well, there was 4, but it wasn't at face. That will change some of the outs here. You can just rampage and trade down into the King Crush.
Yep.
Did he ever just go for the mercenary here? Yeah, I like this.
Your flaws are your strength.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because specifically King Crush is gone, it means that SilverName's got to worry about less high damage outs from Jarla. Whereas versus Warrior, you've got Grom, you've got Korkron, in various different ways. You've got bombs to consider as well, and weapons.
What now?
He is, what, dead to Huffer if he doesn't armor up?
I think the fact that he's already aiming this means he's quicker than Battle Rage, right? Oh, he's going to challenge her, though.
This is cute. He's not dead to Huffer now, I believe. 4, 5, 8, 10. Yeah, it'd be 10. He sets himself up with a board state that he can just Battle Rage off next turn, as well as very comfortably threatening lethal himself. Yeah, I like this. Seems smart.
Yeah, I actually thought he was dead to her for whether he did that or not, but no, you're right.
Vengeance is near.
Obviously, Dinotoma Brown is Dinotoma Brown. There was not really anything he could have done about that in this scenario.
Jarla has Kill Command in his list. And he has Scale Rider as well, if he needs to push some extra, but obviously he can't get them both. That tracking might do some work if he goes for it. Fortunately, no Nagran Slam capabilities.
The moment is upon
Is there a kill command? There is not.
I have no time for games.
Griffin does kill off the Bomb Wrangler pretty cleanly, though. You'll still get that Zigzor as well.
Whoa! Double Korkron now from SilverName.
Well,
He's gonna end it.
yep. That's going to get the job done here. And that's what I mean. The Warrior deck has so many different ways to provide extra damage, whether it's onboard buffs, whether it's Korkrons, whether it's Bloodsworn Mercenary, whether it's Grom, or even just weapons being drawn as well. It's all there, and SilverName to take a bit of a stumble with game number 1 of his warrior, takes game number 2 in his warrior, so he just be able to take that down there and go to a 2-1 lead overall over Jarla. And again, SilverName looking at the bottom of the pack in Division A, so if he takes this win, that again starts to crush Division A all back together and continue to add some spice into potentially the final few weeks of Grandmasters.
Yeah, SilverName will at least be looking over to his right and thanking his lucky stars that he's not over there in Division B with the kind of record that he has right now.
Right.
Although you could argue, you know, maybe the Division A players are stronger and he'd have a better record if he was over in Division B and so on and so forth. But he still has that security blanket that even if his entire season falls apart from this point, he only then has to pick it back up in the relegation playoff to be able to consolidate his position in Grandmasters for next season. That is the luxury provided to you by being successful in the Swiss rounds and seeding yourself into Division A.
Yeah, and that's what's important, right? This isn't arbitrary, where these players have been placed. They had 3 separate Swiss tournaments against all the other players to decide whoever performed the best got in Division A, whoever performed the worst got in Division B. And I really like that. It's an advantage, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Someone from Division B could end up going to Worlds and winning, right? There's nothing stopping them, apart from it's just a little bit tougher. So I like the way this season's worked overall, and whether there's maybe changes to a Season 2 or not, I do just like the improvements we see of that Swiss into a shorter round-robin phase. So it sounds like players are going to be going into their next game. And SilverName only has Priest left, and he's going to be going up against Hunter or Mage. I believe that was Mage, if my ears don't deceive me, unless Jane has suddenly switched class, and he's now got a Hunter skin. Let's go into it. Priest versus Mage, Sottle. What is your opinion, as I'll defer to you on this one, since we're not talking about Hunter?
So I'm torn. Smart people tell me that this is even or slightly Mage favored, but I have such a positive win rate in this matchup as Priest, and generally I just end up fatiguing them. I just am able to kill all of their threats, and then, usually their puzzle box draws them a couple of cards, their amazing Reno will probably draw a couple of cards at some point during the game, and they get so far deeper into fatigue that I can just kind of wait until the end of the game and not really have to do much as I get towards the end. But most people, popular opinion among the best Priest players, seem to think that this is a either even matchup or a slightly Mage-favored one.
I'm surprised. Most Priest-focused players I've seen just say this is the best deck to ever exist and beats everything. So to follow me some new Priest players. But for now, so for this matchup then, are you in the mindset as Priest as being the business as usual? So priority 1 is actually removal of your opponent's threat as opposed to you doing anything too crazy nearly mid.
Okay, first and foremost, crazy things will happen at every stage of the game. So let's throw the phrase "don't do anything too crazy" out of the window, because this matchup is a total clown fiesta. Just be prepared for that. I don't know if you saw Language Hacker versus Eddie last night.
I was asleep.
Okay.
Saw your tweets about it.
Oh my goodness, it was a mess in the very best and worst ways possible. So the matchup is completely clowny. But honestly, that's why I end up playing the fatigue strategy a lot of the time, is that I want to skip all that stuff where, my stolen Solarian Prime is better than my opponent's Solarian Prime that they still managed to get off somehow, or the puzzle box that I stole won me the game and their puzzle box didn't. I'm quite happy to just sit back and just wait for fatigue to happen and just play removal all the time. That, to me, feels like a way to mitigate a lot of the randomness in the matchup, but I don't know how many other people actually, play in that style.
We'll at least get to discover how SilverName plays this one, but with double Apotheosis and a Breath of the Infinite to go this turn, maybe this is worth Breath. Just keep chipping away at him, as he doesn't have doesn't have a penance or anything else to kill it off with, and Breath of the Infinite, outside of some certain situations, maybe with the help of a Soul Mirror, doesn't really do much versus the mid to late game. Instinct tells me that Malygos' intellect is probably the pick here for Jarla. Just getting more resources, getting more to do. As I do admit that if we're talking the game going to fatigue, you are the aggressor as the Mage.
Mm-hmm. It also is a card that you can play somewhat immediately as well, which is a benefit against Priest. Because the longer you hold a super-powered card like this in your hand, the higher the likelihood becomes that your opponent's just going to copy it from you.
Right.
What to do?
Maybe that's why you don't take Intellect. You don't want Priest to draw cards.
Also a consideration, yep.
Just Fireball. And you just Fireball their face next turn. And you're like, take that. It is Fireball.
Okay. Coin Invoke into Invoke Fate Weaver.
Job's done.
This curve does seem to happen an awful lot in this matchup for some reason when I play it.
Sandtooth really nice. Really one of the powerful mid-game cards you can get from these invokes.
Mm-hmm.
As it is always a pain to deal with for your opponent. Now with Jarla having Power of Creation in hand, he could just try and set up this Mana Saber.
Wonder.
And go into power next turn.
It does seem powerful, yeah.
Outside of that, Fireball into Ping I don't really think achieves anything. Mainly because the Malagos is only a 2-attack minion, right?
I wonder.
It achieves taking potential Apotheosis targets off the board. Is about all I can think of here.
Time runs out on me.
Yeah, I don't think that does much this turn, because if you remove this as an Apotheosis target, that's good, obviously. But with no follow-up next turn... Right, excuse me, had to just sneeze for a second. With no follow-up next turn to... Because the idea is, if you want to kill a minion to stop Apotheosis going on it, well, you want to kill the next minion they play to stop it being Apotheosis. Well, you can't, because there's no good follow-up the turn after. So I do like getting this in and trying to just accelerate to the stronger turns there for Jarla.
Does that draw just the absolute turbo nuts this turn? Gets to second Invoke and Fate Weaver in the same turn?
I'm going to go for a yes. Does look quite good.
He's actually discounting pretty core cards as well. He's hitting his Murazond, which is kind of huge.
We are all bound.
Would have loved to have maybe fit that in first and then also tried to discount like a Soul Mirror in his hand, but the mana didn't work out that way. He didn't get offered Soul Mirror anyway. Crucial to know, by the way, that this does draw the card. It's not like other effects that we have seen where you get a copy of it. That is actually just the copy of Shadow of Death drawn from the deck now.
Yeah, it just says discover a card from your deck. It doesn't say discover a copy of
Yeah.
your deck. Now, though, Jarla does have the opportunity to attack with his Mana Saber. Go up to that 8 mana, but he might now hold off on it, as he does have access to Seamat instead. He could choose to not attack with Mana Saber, because that's one thing I guess Priest hasn't got going for it, is outside of Soul Mirror, they actually just can't interact with stealth minions in any way, right? You can't really be punished, it can't be stolen, can't be, all the weird things Priest can do to you. So I think Jarla's pretty safe at holding on with this Mana Saber.
Agreed.
And why not, right? He has a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in hand, which means there is something to ramp into further next turn.
Exactly. If he leaves it stealth, he then has the ramp into Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, and that's why I was talking about potentially this Murazond discount actually being very important, because it offsets a lot of Jarla's ramp in terms of SilverName actually being able to respond to Dragon Queen Alexstrasza by just at least matching the board if that ends up being his best play with the Murazond, to replay all the dragons himself.
Oh, I don't like the attack. Okay. I thought he locked the attack in. I was like, I'm not sure if just 3 damage does anything at this point in the game, at least.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was ever seriously considering that attack, or whether he was just pretending he was considering that attack to not make the contents of his hand too obvious.
The true mind games.
Yeah. Okay. Plays a death, gets a pain. Seems pretty strong.
Might not want to play the pain, though, because it means he doesn't get to Apotheosis this turn.
Okay.
Let's start off with a renew and then
I must
review
consider.
what he gets.
Ah, the old renew and review play, of course. For Apotheosis, though, he doesn't get to kill the 2/7.
He gets triple kills.
He does.
And also, the 2/7 is always a reasonable target for steals and things, right? It's so low.
Yeah, on that Veil Weaver.
This is nice. Basically, just making an annoying minion even more annoying for Jarla to deal with.
Yeah, and the reason why it's so good this turn is that, again, despite maybe Jarla was trying to bluff on the previous turn, I think SilverName kind of knows what's up here, that this means ramp into Dragon Queen Alexstrasza a lot of the time. So that means even if the attack goes into the Sethic Veil Weaver, he still just has a Sethic Veil Weaver next turn into the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza turn, which is a huge upside for him.
I think Jarla does need to start doing stuff. Because he's been beaten on board now, and in health,
What to do?
and to a certain extent in hand quality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what you want to be doing against Priest. You want Priest to be struggling, right? You want Priest to be on the back foot if you want to try and beat them. You want them to be just grasping at things. Okay, I can just about remove this, or okay, I have to play these cards in an efficient manner to deal with this board or to heal. That's what you want Priest to be on, because when they're struggling and they have to just use their resources inefficiently, that's when they start to really lose out, because they don't have that card to refill that.
Sorry, SilverName just made the face. Aw, he pinged my guy instead of playing Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. Like, who has ever been disappointed about that before? Shadow Madness keycard in this matchup, as it is really in a lot of matchups these days, revolving around the Astromancer Solarian. Obviously, it's insane to steal with the Shadow Madness because you get the Prime off the Death Rattle, so then it's also something that the Mage will generally play around a lot of the time. Just playing the Solarian and just blowing it up in the same turn with the Conjurer's Calling, for example. Just anything to get that Death Rattle to go off immediately.
I've got a weird question for you.
Mm.
Can you embalming an enemy minion? Can you check that?
Can you what?
Do you use the embalming? The reborn?
Yes, you can. Yeah, it's minion. It's just a minion.
Okay. Do you ever do it on the Doomsayer?
Quickly.
That's too fancy.
That does seem kind of silly, yeah.
We are priest. Like we are in a priest game right now.
Yeah, it is cool. I'll give you that.
I'll take it. I like being called cool.
I just gives him a 2/5 and just sends it back again, just for the sake of dealing with the Doomsayer. That is also kind of a very weird-looking play on SilverName's side.
Definitely less cool, in my opinion.
Mm.
Only because, like, if it required a ping, it cuts out 9 plays and 8 plays, right? But for Jarla, which are atypically the strongest mana plays that Mage does, apart from, to a certain extent, 6 and 10. If we talk about boxes, but still. It was just an interesting idea that you could just give him a Doomsayer again to deal with.
must stop this corruption.
So Jarla did get Emerald Explorer off his Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, which is something that you have to consider in the matchup, because you playing Taunt Dragons on your Dragon Queen Alexstrasza turn often makes your opponent more secure just to be able to Murazond and steal your whole board, because they have some built-in defense against the giant minions that you've also played.
Yeah.
Time runs out on me.
No Nosdormu. Okay.
This turn looks like it doesn't require a Murazond as far as I'm looking at, Saddle. Oh, is he gonna go for it?
I wonder.
It is just kind of good, though.
But he has that Fate Weaver time rip.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it wasn't mind-blowing, was it, this turn? Because you get basically 2 8/8s, right, which doesn't really use a lot of stats. Well, it does use all his mana as well.
Yep. Can stick this Renew on the Fate Weaver after the trade if he wants, or go for the Reborn instead.
And excuse me, I think my worry is that it doesn't really deal with any of the board here, and Jarla has freezes, but SilverName does not.
Yeah, that's where the Emerald Explorer comes into play, though, is that if there's no taunt, a lot of the times you can't make this play, because then they just Alexstrasza you in the face and you're dead, because all you've done is just copy a bunch of big dragons.
There is now Fireball, Freeze, and Ping. You can push a ton of damage.
Mm-hmm. I think SilverName's kind of happy to rebound for now, though. The way this is laid out, he has one Apotheosis minion in play that, you know, unless he's getting persistently frozen turn after turn after turn, will need to be dealt with. Then he does still have that time rip you were talking about to be able to kill the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza on the next turn.
Funny
He's
enough,
too worried.
I had a slightly better idea as well. What if it was just rolling Fireball, then Freeze Ping? Because then you hold the Fireball in hand.
Sure.
Maybe that gets there, I don't know.
Time runs out on me.
Whoa. Jarla's just stacking up right now. Double Malagos Fireball in hand.
Yeah. This Nova's just huge here. Haha, gonna drop the old Nosdormu down.
And then... boom! Surprise Nosdormu!
Quickly.
Quick time rip
Alright.
the Nosdormu, so you've got time to consider the rest of your turn.
Yep, the life coach play, as it is known. Don't think about it, just first things first, kill Nosdormu.
Second. Well, it's Traza.
But now, with 4, 7, 9, 11 in play, 12 more from hand from Fireballs, yep, Jarla's just got it.
GG. Jarla takes game number 2 and evens up the series with the double Malagos Fireball attack. Bit of a rarity to see, honestly. I'm glad we did get to see it today. The series going 2-2. Jarla got to win with the Mage, and SilverName is going to be on his Priest again.
And he's gone.
It's only 2-2, Jarla. There's another game to play yet. When players just stare at their chairs for the victory screen. That's going to be in the top 5 plays, maybe, or just a montage we can make at the end of the season. It's just all the times we go to victory. There's just no one there. But yeah, bit of a weird game, that one, right? So it really was just the Frost Nova. And I think that was, for me at least, the scary part of just doing Murozond on that turn, because you couldn't actually kill anything off with the minions that SilverName already had, right?
It's true. I don't think it would have got any better for him, though. Like, if he just time rips the Alexstrasza that turn and plays like another small dragon with the Fate Weaver, there's still just more stuff coming back down from Jarla the turn afterwards. I think the game like progresses in the same way. If anything, like him having the big board as well does at least, you know, make Jarla need Frost Novas or Blizzards or quality removal spells. Whereas if he just stays behind on board there, then I think Jarla can just keep progressing threats, just like Alexstrasza him in the face and attack him with whatever he had, and then set up for the Malagos Fireball that way and just only need one, not even need the second one a lot of the time, as long as he can deal with the Apotheosis that was in play as well. So I think, you know, it was a pretty good-looking Murozond turn to me because of the taunt minion that was in play. As I said, that's often a big kicker as to whether you do it or not. But yeah, there's a lot of options that SilverName could have found as well to dig himself out of that. He had the Renew that he could have used to go fishing for like a Soul Mirror, for example. He could have just drawn his natural Soul Mirror. He could have hit Galacrons to be able to remove some of the board, although I only believe he was on 2 or 3 invokes at that point before the time rips had to start getting cast for the panic removal. But yeah, I think it was just really well played overall from Jarla. I think his early game plan was strong. I think his diversions were smart, where he, you know, pulled himself off the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza turn just to get the ping on the Sethic Veil Weaver instead. I think he rationed everything out pretty smartly there.
And it's why I like watching more of Priest, honestly, because although Priest, again, you know, you just instantly think of the mirrors and they're just long and it comes to just whoever's generating whatever. I think Priest does have very clear weaknesses, right? And we're seeing that now, not only in that game, but also when we look at the Quest Warlock matchup, where the weakness of just not being able to recover from high bursts of damage in short periods of time, because they don't just heal forever. And then also in the Hunter matchup, where they can just keep putting awkward shaped minions to deal with on curve and just putting a ton of pressure on. So again, I do wonder how long Priest is going to stick around. I do think the deck's strong, but if, say, next week we see even more lineups adopt, say, a Hunter Warlock strategy, then does Priest just get pushed out? Like, that's the question for me. Is it then just going to be too much for Priest to handle? And then we're going to see a further cycling of suddenly, well, what beats Hunter Warlock? And it's just almost the never-ending circle of the meta, right? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we have 2 potential heroes in the European region. Neither of them wear capes. One of them is Casey. The other one is Quest Warlock. Both of those things can save us from the tyranny of the 12-hour days that could be incoming if we get like 16 out of 16 priests. But yeah, I do think Quest Warlock is potentially a thing that we'll see coming into play a lot more over the coming weeks. As to just keep that priest in check and make sure it can't run away for it. Because if you have, as you said, Highlander Hunter, Quest Warlock as 2 of your decks, suddenly there's enough decks that you can get in there. You know, just Highlander Mage, for example, is a fine matchup against Priest. So you can kind of have that lineup that leaves Priest up and actually feels happy about its potential to beat it 3 times.
Yeah, and I think as of this moment in time, if you can be confident against leaving Priest up and you get to ban Warrior, I think you've done something very, very right with your lineup and plan for the weekend.
Right.
Let's go into game number 5 between Jarla and SilverName. Jarla on the top on this Hunter. SilverName, of course, on his Priest. And again, as we mentioned, this is not a good matchup for the Priest. This is unfun for the Priest player.
Mind Flayer Kaj. There it is. Okay, I was going to say, this is about the only card that I've really hung my hat on in this matchup. Mind Flayer Kaj early just gets so much work done. It's in terms of creating awkward board states that contest board early. And then also, even if you don't draw it early, if you find it later, it's still an irritatingly sticky minion that can be too hard to deal with for the Hunter. So you get an Apotheosis target in play, which is another big problem with the matchup, that you just never get to stick minions in play, it feels like, for Apotheosis.
And funnily enough, here we see the Zephrys come down from Jarla, and I think there was a big nod from his hand that was saying go for Wild Growth, because I don't think it's a given in this matchup. I think there is some merit to going for a bit more of a tempo-based Zephrys choice. But honestly, with Bran, with Alexstrasza, with Boom Pistol Bully, and a coin, yeah, you don't have to say too much to make me pick a Wild Growth in this instance. So I like this from Jarla. Now we're going to see the old answer to Zephrys Wild Growth. Madame Lazul Wild Growth. Yes! I feel like that's just coded in.
What were the odds? 3 out of 7? Okay, just below 50-50.
Not too quickly.
Must consider.
No, sorry, Raven, you're right. The odds were 100%. I don't know what I'm talking about. Desert Spear and Kill Command are actually like playable removal cards in the matchup though, so I can actually understand the thought process. But I think if your opponent Wild Growth's here, you're happy to just Wild Growth them right back.
Yeah, it's, funnily enough, them picking Wild Growth makes you pick Wild Growth and not removal tools more, right? Because you know they're Wild Growthing into something bigger, so suddenly, although the Desert Spear are a great weapon, not going to actually do too much. The Kill Command, again, not a consistent amount of pieces from Priest, so it means, again, that's going to do too much with the bigger minion.
This hand is just so meaty from Jarla. Look at it. Look at the size of it.
A very timely time rip, though. Being able to take down this Boom Pistol was one of the few cards he could have drawn that would have actually...
Yeah, also timely because it now means he has the discount curve locked and loaded. Shield of Galakron into Fate Weaver on the follow-up. This Shadow Madness is hitting nothing based on Jarla's draw so far. Look at the size of his hand.
Ultra high level play is Shadow Madness will be bad if I never play a minion that's targetable.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering here what the play is from Jarla. He can just coin out Bran. Does, of course, slow down some of his other options, mainly the Alexstrasza, but with a second 7 drop, it means he can just fill the gap.
Raven, we've had this talk. Big dinosaur goes raw.
Look, of all people, you know I appreciate this the most. I'm trying to do a slightly unbiased job of just outlining some of the other points. But yes, dinosaur hitting your opponent in the face is very nice.
Renew, hit the death. Kaj. Oh, he actually did it. Oh my goodness. Kaj the crush and death it. It's insane. Wow. That is what they call a swing turn, Raven.
Yes. Yes, it is. And there's nothing you can do about it this turn, right? You can't kill the Kaj and Rotnest.
Nope.
And if you can't do anything about it this turn,
Vengeance is near.
does he ever not play a minion that allows Kaj to trade and die into?
I think that's definitely worth thinking about, yeah. Especially since you do have that Rot Nest in hand. Or even Varanus. Yeah, like you could just play Desert Spear this
Yeah,
turn.
just spare hero power go. Yeah.
And then set up for Varanus on the following turn to tidy up.
Yeah, that's one of those sort of cute / fancy plays that I think is actually just correct. Because you don't want SilverName to just trade in and then get an 8/8.
I have no time for games.
It's just damage that you can't really handle. And the drawback for Jarla having this such a beefy hand and going straight to the late game is, as we can see, with the help of a bit of a heal, SilverName's on 28. So actually, that King Crush didn't put him on actual like health pressure. It put him on just a big minion on board pressure, which is kind of a weird thing for Bran to do.
Right. Yeah, I like this plan though, from Jarla.
Don't keep your thoughts to yourself.
Psychic Sun Conjurer gives a Scavengers. Okay. That'll draw his 6 or Prime later. That's good.
Did he have to swing face there?
I think it's just good too, honestly. Just gets an extra minion on board now that might not get killed. Right? It means like +1 minion for the next turn. So you have 1 minion that will survive here, plus 1 more minion rushing from the Desert Spear next turn, plus your Varanus to be able to clear up.
It's not too upset if Shadow Madness comes down onto the Bran. Onto the 1/1 to kill the Bran.
Yeah, it seems like a very lame use of Shadow Madness.
Don't keep your thoughts to yourself.
I was so ready for that to be 6.
Well, the taunt makes this horrible.
Sure does.
Victory is in my grasp.
So I think he waits. He can Varanus Unleash next turn.
Unleash Faceless Corruptor this turn? Does that do enough? It does. You could technically clear this turn if you wanted to do that, but it's very ugly.
Winds of the south, come to my aid!
Rush Wind
Oh,
Fury
okay, can
gives
do it
him the
this
option
way,
for
yeah.
clears as well if he wants.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Does involve taking 8 though.
Wait. Didn't have to. He's valuing keeping the Bran on board?
As a 2/1 when there's 2 1/1s on board, yeah.
Ugh.
Does seem a little bit sketchy.
Just took 5 extra damage.
I will act as your scapegoat.
Your head isn't as empty as it looks.
Still 6 2-ofs left in SilverName's deck. Takes it anyway, okay.
I'm actually really surprised. I thought the other options were more than good enough to take over the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, it's the one that's in hand, though, right? So what were the other two options? Did you...
Yeah, Animal Companion?
Was it cards he's already seen, basically, is the question? Like, did he actually have influence as to which one was the correct answer?
I don't think so. I think, like, well, at least for me, it was... So I was thinking it in the way of what you said a little bit earlier in the day. I think where you talk about you sort of... Or was it yesterday, maybe? You go for the one you want more because this Alexstrasza, if it is that, isn't active for so long and he's not just going to play out on its own.
I think if you have no clue as to what the right answer is, then just pick the one that you want the most, yeah.
Right. Which definitely wouldn't have been an Alexstrasza as far as I'm concerned, but SilverName did get the card. If you picked anything else, it would have obviously not worked.
Yep.
Maybe he is ahead enough to just drop a 9-mana 8/8. We'll find out, won't we?
I have no time for games.
Vengeance is near.
This is just a find for us to just get all this out of the way. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, seems good. Should be enough of a board swing that you are ahead or at least close to parity next turn, and you can just drop the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in a much more comfortable spot.
Yeah.
Oh, Shadow Word Death off the top, though. Get out of here.
It's weirdly running out of stuff, though.
Did he not want to Sethic this hand first?
Hey, maybe.
Sorry, yeah, Fate Weaver. My bad.
We are all bound to fate.
Okay, works out fine.
Yeah, SilverName is running out of stuff. He just have the board back again. He just replaces his Shadow Madness with another Shadow Madness, which is funny. But he doesn't have much proactive things to do.
There it is, Raven. I promised you this Scavenger's Ingenuity was going to get value.
If Zixor is left alive on board, I'm going to get angry, Sal. It's not the first time I've seen it. And
Victory is in my grasp.
I think a lot of the times I've seen it left up, it's definitely not needed to have been left up, is my frustration.
So I think right here, it's probably not coming down. But in general, I think it could justifiably happen, because obviously we're looking at a hand that has 2 Shadow Madness in it. But SilverName has used one of his natural Shadow Madness. So from Jarla's perspective, there's 1 Shadow Madness left in 18 cards. He doesn't know about this generated one.
I always presume they have it. But yes, you are right. I think I would like actually the Elcommand Rot Nest here. Seems really good. Because at the moment now, you've seen that SilverName still has this Sethic on the board, and he has spells, right? Because it generates spells when you play spells, so there's always target. I think killing this Sethic is pretty important here. Okay, doing it this way, sure. Either way, I think the Rot Nest coming down to snipe the 3/6 looks good.
Damn. It's one way he's not getting Zixor. The Grand Slam, though. That's a pretty big card to steal.
Yeah, when I said SilverName's kind of running out of stuff, it's helped quite a lot. It's a 1 card make 4 dudes. It's pretty strong. Was he just gonna play Scavenger to get it out of his hand?
Don't you do it.
Just clogging the old hand up, isn't it?
Yeah. There is now a 5/4 on board that Jarla can just slam his Zixor into immediately if he would really like to.
What I like to see.
It's probably just a Dragon Queen turn.
Victory is in my grasp.
Galakrond's only on 3 invokes, so if you play 3 dragons, they're not all going to die to the Galakrond. It's about as good as it's going to get, I think.
The 3 dragons are playable. Oh.
Yeah, those look pretty playable.
Not even pretty playable. I'll go as far to say very. don't think overloading's really going to hurt him too much. I think the question, honestly, is whether he waits and goes Squall, Zigzor,
I have no
Elfman.
time for games.
Mm-hmm.
I bring life.
Still out Straza this turn, but I think I like holding the other dragon, even though it is weak to Galakron.
Thought still pretty big whiff here. He had Soul
You're in
Mirror
trouble.
available. He had Galakron available for just trade and full clear. And Grand Slam is 12 damage. Not good enough. Even if they did all hit minions.
Or face.
Sure. It's
I
also
mean,
not
well,
even a
it's
lethal
close.
out.
It's
Yeah,
close.
it's not even a lethal out.
I wonder.
So Thought Steal it is.
It's looking that way, yep. Don't see a line outside of this.
Oh.
Tracking for Galakrons?
Oh. Hmm.
Breath.
Right, he still has Holy Nova, so that's 4.
Yeah, Breath plus Nova.
Does heal him as well, which means he's not strictly dead to hero power anymore, right? With the trade.
But he is still dead.
Very true.
A
Silvername goes for the
valiant
brave
effort.
defense. Yeah.
For SilverName. But looks like Jarla is going to get over the line here. He puts himself in, at least for now, prime position in Division A. Raven SilverName's woes are going to continue.
They really are going to be going to a 1-4 record now. Jarla does take that win, and SilverName looking more and more likely he's going to be playing it out in that potential relegation bracket towards the end of the season. And somewhere for doing so well and getting yourself in Division A, you really then did not want to put yourself in the mix, right? All you really have to do is just not do badly in the division, even just do okay, just do a completely just acceptable job just to stay above that, because there are only 2 spots out of Division A that go into a basically a playoff bracket for a relegation spot. Sounds like that's the prize, and it's definitely not. So yeah, again, congratulations to Jarla there. But again, we just see the tough part of one. It was a bit of a weird game with the way the Hunter ramped and just had all the big stuff, but it was just the relentless pressure. SilverName had answers to stuff, right? He had the answer to the boom pistol. He had answers. He even got his own King Crush as well. But there's just so much stuff that Hunter just throws at you turn after turn after turn. The lack of card draw came in. We saw no Galakron. There was no options for answers because SilverName generally and Priest is just drawing 1 card a turn to play. And we saw that really take into effect there in that matchup.
I'm sorry I let you down, Raven. There was no Scavenger's Ingenuity into Zigzor Prime by the Priest that game. I'm sorry. It is a real point, though. I think when you play Priest on ladder, the deck can just seem invincible. You can just feel like you're winning every game because your average ladder player, even at decently high legend, is not playing around Priest cards to the level that a Grandmaster will. So they'll get got by Madame Lazul. They'll get got by Shadow Madness. All of these cards that really just end games if you play into them badly. Whereas at this level, they are a little bit less effective because you'll see people Conjurers calling their own primes, not playing their Zixor so that it doesn't get Shadow Madness, all this kind of stuff. But overall, I do have to feel a little bit sorry for SilverName. I genuinely do think he's a very good player. I think maybe he's slightly outmatched in the caliber of player that he's up against in Division A. But I think if SilverName was in another region, he might just be stomping one of the other regions right now.
Right.
I think he's just in the toughest group in the toughest region, and that's why it's making him look bad at this point. But I do think he's a very, very talented Hearthstone player.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to see. Time out with Europe region, right? It's such a strong region that people have to be relegated or they have to be at the bottom of the table because that's just the way it is. You put 2 of the best, the top 2 world's best Hearthstone players against each other. Well, one of them loses. It's just going to happen, right? So that starts to stack up in a group.
It's happening on match 5, Raven. That's exactly what's happening.
True.
Match 5, yeah.
That is true. But for match 3, we do have